안녕하세요 여러분, 김지윤입니다. 제가 지금 조금 특별한 곳에 와 있는데요. 귀한 손님이 오셨다고 해서 또 이야기를 조금 나눠보려고 왔습니다. 바로 아세안의 까오끔훈 사무총장님이신데요. 아세안은 동남아시아의 10개 국가가 모인 국가연합체죠. 1967년에 설립이 됐고요. 최근에 이 국가들이 눈부신 성장을 거듭하면서 각광을 받고 있는 기구이기도 합니다. 그러면 아세안 사무총장님께서는 아세안과 한국의 관계가 어떤 식으로 발전해야 된다라고 생각을 하시는지 한번 이야기를 들어보겠습니다. Well, it's my great pleasure to be with you and thank you so much for the interview. Actually, almost 60 years have passed since ASEAN was established in 1967. So what do you think is the most remarkable achievement of the organization so far?
I would say three things that have been the most significant achievements of ASEAN. One, of course, is to keep the region at peace. Second, of course, is building prosperity for the people, particularly focus on economic development, getting people out of poverty. Third, of course, is engaging external partners.
External partners like
US, China,
Korea,
Japan. So partnership, building partnership, I would say is another dimension that ASEAN has been able to accomplish in almost 60 years.
Well, I can see the ASEAN and the European Union are two most important regional organizations in the world that both were founded to promote economic integration and regional cooperation and political stability and also peace in the region. But they have some differences as well. So could you please explain us what are the differences between EU and ASEAN?
Well, thank you very much for these very important questions. ASEAN is an intergovernmental regional organization, while the EU is a more supra-regional organization. So for us, it's very clear that the member states would be the ones that are driving the whole regional process, the community building, the integration, all the key priorities of ASEAN. So that's one major difference, I think, in terms of the ones being intra, ones being intergovernmental. Second, of course, would be the decision-making process. ASEAN has a decision-making process based on consensus, meaning that the 10 countries would have to negotiate together and to reach a consensus on any issues that we work on. Where in the case of the EU, it's more on a voting modality. So our modus operandi would be consensus building, consultation. Of course, building the consensus may take a little time, but once we're able to reach a consensus, then it is a strong consensus. It's an unbreakable consensus.
And most of ASEAN countries are experiencing remarkable growth. However, there are disparities, like in terms of GDP and political stability and the political systems and the level of democracy as well. And I understand the goal of ASEAN is to have one unified voice. How can you manage to have one unified voices, like, despite all those disparities?
Well, one thing is very clear that for ASEAN, we do have diversity, different political systems, religions, languages, different level of economic developments. But at the end of the day, is that we have a lot of common interests. I would say that at the moment, the economic disparity is increasingly being narrow. Look at the new members of ASEAN today. There are more and more people now moving out of poverty because of the economic growth, economic development, and economic transformation. As a region, collectively, ASEAN is able to attract, by working together, foreign direct investment inflows into the region that create jobs, employment. ASEAN is able to focus on increasing trade, the interest in trade, but also trade with our partners, with South Korea, for example, with Japan, India, with Australia, New Zealand. And we are also now negotiating bilateral trade with Canada. So I think at the moment is that we're able to increase the warm trade with all the partners that we have, but also to attract investment and promote tourism. And I think our tourism sector are also growing. In addition, we are working to increase connectivity with all the partner countries. At the moment, we have 11 dialogue partners, 8 sectoral dialogue partners, and 6 development partners. So cut across, meaning we have a lot of partners that we work in order to take our economic development to the next level, to ensure that we benefit our people. So I think it's, yes, there are different levels of economic development, but yet we're working very closely So this is quite important for us in ASEAN.
You said one of the most remarkable achievements of ASEAN is keeping the peace in the region. I'd like to ask you about South China Sea. And China is becoming more assertive in the region. And of course, the responses from the member countries of ASEAN are different. So how can you manage all those different perception of threat by China in the South China Sea?
Well, first, I would say between ASEAN and China, we have many mechanisms of cooperation. The South China Sea issue is one of the key issues that we have been working together quite some time already. 2002, when we signed the Declaration of Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea. And after some years of negotiations, so this DOC was signed by 10 ASEAN foreign ministers and foreign minister of China. Then by 2011, we adopted the guidelines to implement some activities in order to promote the confidence buildings between ASEAN and China. Of course, then over the years, more recently, right before COVID-19, we started the negotiation for the Code of Conduct. The South China Sea issue is a very complex issue. There are layers of issues. You have bilateral dimension of the issue, claims and counterclaims. Now for ASEAN, we have 4 claimant states. But again, as that now we have been working on the COC through negotiations. And we hope to conclude this COC before the end next year. Of course, you know very well that ASEAN member states still run their respective foreign policy. So it means that there are issues that will have to be handled through the bilateral engagement. But for us, at the ASEAN level, we want to make sure that there is tension reduction. A peaceful, stable, secure South China Sea that, of course, respect international law and, of course, work on the basis of the 1982 UNCLOS. But at the ASEAN-China level, we want to see more cooperation. Now, the situation that we see now is more of a dispute, not an open conflict. Of course, different member states may have different responses. But overall, ASEAN has a common position so that we can manage the issue in the South China Sea.
Well, it kind of aligns with the ASEAN's position that I understand ASEAN maintains the principle of non-interference of domestic politics of member states. I respect that, but there are some criticisms. For example, like when the Myanmar, there was a coup, the critics said, no, non-interfering in this situation is interfering. So what is your take on this?
This is one of the, what we call the principle that we have been operating is non-interference. We talk about respect the sovereignty, territorial integrity, and political independence. What happened in Myanmar in February 2021 led to the call for an emergency meeting of the ASEAN leaders. Of course, the leaders decided to have the 5-point consensus on how ASEAN should engage with Myanmar. And the 5-point consensus has been the reference how ASEAN has been able to engage with Myanmar in order to facilitate inclusive political dialogue. So meaning that there are key stakeholders in Myanmar, and the special envoy ASEAN chair would attempt to facilitate the dialogue because it will be a Myanmar-led, Myanmar-owned process. Because at the end of the day, it will be up to Myanmar to have self-determination of how Myanmar will lead their country, for example. So I think this is something that we have to respect based on this principle we operate.
As we are aware very well, the global politics, international environments have changed so dramatically. There are 2 ongoing wars, and the competition between the United States and China is getting more serious. In this situation, I think ASEAN can do something. Well, what do you think?
China and the United States are ASEAN comprehensive strategic partners. In the case of the United States, we have almost 5 decades of cooperation and partnership. In fact, in 2022, we celebrated the 45th anniversary together. With China, in fact, 2021, we celebrate the 35th anniversary. And our role, of course, is that on the one hand is to promote confidence building, also enhance the strategic trust with our partners and friends. Of course, we like to see the improvement relation between, say, US and China. But we understand, of course, there are global priorities also in terms of the war in Ukraine, the crisis in Gaza. It means that the world is more preoccupied with all of this, what we call the polycrisis. So for us in ASEAN, of course, is that increasingly ASEAN has become what we call global ASEAN, become more active in the economic arena, but at the same time, ASEAN has put out the views and position on global issues, include the war in Ukraine and the crisis in Gaza. And I think we are not oblivious of the global issues at all. ASEAN always has an agenda on exchange of views on regional and global issues, where ASEAN would have the strategic dialogue with the partners countries that we have. So I think this is something that we've been doing as part of the regular engagement that ASEAN has been undertaken. So again, I think ASEAN is increasingly playing that role.
Well, I think we are expecting more from ASEAN because this is a group of countries, young, energetic, the growing economically and politically, so that's probably why, well, maybe the ASEAN can do something in this tough situation, bridging those two countries maybe, or giving some other hope and wishes for the rest of the world. In the near future, the ASEAN can be the key player in the global scene. That's what I think. I heard that this year marks the 35th anniversary of the ASEAN and Korea established sectoral dialogue partnership, and we recently elevated to the comprehensive strategic partnership. For those public who are not really familiar with those diplomatic jargons, so could you please explain what those terms mean?
Well, of course, our relations have evolved over time. So it means that in terms of cooperation, we become much closer, we do more things together. We focus not only on what we call functional cooperation, but we move into political dialogue, security cooperation, beyond the economic cooperation, but also in the social cultural area also. So I think cut across many different areas of cooperation. And we engage each other at all levels, from the leaders summit to the ministerial, even to the ambassador level and the working group, for example. So we have been engaging with each other. So this year marks the 35th anniversary. Of course, I think this year when we meet to commemorate the 35th anniversary, we'll look back what we have achieved in the past 35 years. And of course, look into the future, how we will cooperate with each other in the next 35 years. So I think that's important in terms of where and how we will take our cooperation to the next level. At the moment, of course, in terms of trade, Korea is one of the top part of ASEAN. Also in the areas of investment, also Korea is one of the top source of investment for ASEAN. In terms of tourism sector, I think there's more Korean tourists visiting ASEAN and vice versa. So I think in the 35 years, I would say that we have come to appreciate each other more in terms of our relations, cooperation, partnership. And moving forward, I think let's see what more can we do together, expanding areas of cooperation in the existing mechanism of cooperation that we have, but also looking at new areas where we can take advantage of the current opportunities as we are deepening our partnership. So that's something I think that we will continue to work together very closely, yes.
So this year we start the complete implementation of Korea-ASEAN Solidarity Initiative. Could you please tell us what exactly it's about and also what kind of expectations do you have from it?
Well, we appreciate when Korea put out the what's called CASHES, right? This important strategy is to work with ASEAN. And we know that there are more projects, programs, activities that we work together between ASEAN and Korea to promote trade, to promote investment, promote exchange of young people.
I might excluded.
In your case, you can consider also.
My kids.
Yeah, and I think it's good for all of us. Exchange, of course, in terms of culture also. Korea also has a very rich culture. So cut across all the sector, even I think we can cooperate in the area of disaster management, because with the impact of climate change, in the case of ASEAN, we are very much prone to disaster. But of course also in the public health sector, this is another area that we can do a lot more. I understand that Korea is also quite advanced in medical science. Yeah. So I think there's many areas we can work together under the three-pillar ASEAN community. Including, for example, now we have the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific, right? There we have the 4 priority areas where we can work with Korea, or Korea can work with ASEAN in the areas of maritime cooperation, but also in economic cooperation and other areas of cooperation as well. So I think it's identity is how we work together to advance our mutual interests on the basis of mutual respect.
I think it's really important to increase the human exchange. And I understand ASEAN has ASEAN Universities Network. And so, I don't know, I mean, maybe Korea can contribute to those network because well, it's very severe competition, but we have pretty good education system in Korea. So is there any way that we can work together in terms of education or high skill labor?
Well, this is very good. I believe Korea has some of the best university. I think this is one of your greatest assets. That's where we should do more to cooperate. Yes, we have the ASEAN University Network, but of course you can also work beyond the ASEAN University Network to cooperate in the areas of mutual interest in terms of exchange of faculty members, in terms of exchange of students, even have interlibrary cooperation, for example, as well. So there's a lot we can do to cooperate. But I think what is important is that the intellectual exchange should be sustained in long term. I think that's something that we should be able to work together. The other area I'd like to see is the internship program. Young people, perhaps they can be recruited by Korean companies that invest in ASEAN to recruit them as interns. And then if they like them, they can recruit them on a long-term basis. Of course, also interns for Korean companies in Korea as well. And vice versa. Maybe there are Korean youth that maybe want to do internship in ASEAN as well. So I think this is one way of learning from one another, but of course also provide more opportunities for our young and youth.
After the pandemic, there's a resurgence of tourism and travel. And of course, one of the most desired destinations of Korean tourists is ASEAN countries. Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia comes next. And I will also see a lot of visitors from ASEAN countries on the street of Seoul. So there's a huge exchange of travelers and tourists. And I think it can enhance the relationship between those two, because I think, having a good relationship should be based on the trust, and trust can be established through getting to know each other and being contacted. So what is your take on this?
Well, I fully agree that trust has been very important, the foundation of our relationship. I mean, where we are today, to arrive where we are today, is based on trust in working together. And ASEAN, we have this principle of working with our partners like Korea on the basis of transparency, openness, inclusivity. So this is very, very important for us, is to build long-term trust in our partnership. So of course, people-to-people exchange is very important. And I must say that yes, we should do more in terms of how we can leverage the tourism sector as part of promoting the better understanding between the two sides. Because if people visiting each other more, meaning that they would come to learn from one another, and I think culture is very important, people is very important. So that's why I think the connectivity can help a lot to make sure that tourists can travel easily between ASEAN and Korea and ASEAN. Another arrangement, of course, we'd like to see, of course, maybe opening more of visa between the two sides. So maybe I'm sure that more ASEAN tourists would like to visit Korea, because Korea is one of the good destinations. It's not too far, and it's people like the 4 seasons, right? And of course, if people want warm weather, I think Korean tourists can go to ASEAN member states. But this is something that we'd like to see pushing ahead to promote the tourism cooperation between ASEAN and Korea.
Well, according to the report by East to West Center, they said the ASEAN economic community is the 5th largest economy of the world. And of course, it will continue to grow on average by 5 percentage points every year, and it's going to be the 4th by 2030. So with those potential to grow and also huge influence possible, what is ASEAN most concerned about in the short, medium, and the long term?
You know, the global economy is something that we have to watch very closely. Having said that, it means that we have to work harder to sustain our economic growth, to keep above the global averages, meaning that 4.7 or 5%, I think something that we have to work very hard during this current global economic uncertainty. So I think for us, it means that we have to make sure that our economy remains relevant to foreign companies that invest in ASEAN, doing business in ASEAN. At the same time, we have to also continue to look at the new drivers of the economy, like the digital economy, that at the moment ASEAN has been negotiating since September last year, and we hope to conclude this digital economy framework agreement before the next year. So this will add a big part to the economy. At the moment, we have about $300 billion US. We expect to reach $1 trillion US by 2030. But if we negotiate for a more liberal, and of course, we can take advantage of the digital economy, we can even increase to $2 trillion. So again, there's an enormous potential for ASEAN to really tap into this opportunity. On top of that, now we're working on the green economy because we try to focus on clean and renewable energy, while at the same time move ahead on the blue economy. So I think we're looking at different new drivers of the ASEAN economy, how we can continue to expand our economy regionally and globally. And that's why I think, as I alluded earlier, to the bilateral FTAs that we have to work on very closely with the existing partners. Of course, we have interested partners now, and this is something that we have to work very hard. So I think moving forward is that, yes, to sustain and maintain the current level of economic growth is important for ASEAN, but at the same time, we have to look into the future of ASEAN. That's why we have been working on the ASEAN Community Vision 2045 and the crafting of the 4 strategic plans under the 3 pillars of ASEAN community, meaning the political security. We will have 1 strategic plan. We have also have the economic pillar. We have also the economic strategic plan, and then the social cultural. We also have the strategic plan and the ASEAN connectivity. So all of this because we want to prioritize how ASEAN will continue to propel as we continue to build our community, but also to sustain the prosperity agenda for the people of ASEAN.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a huge ambition there and also very bright future for ASEAN, and I wish Korea can be part of it. Well, thank you so much for the interview today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Of course, I say that between ASEAN and Korea, we're looking forward to the full establishment of the comprehensive strategic partnership later this year as we commemorate the 35th anniversary. And I think Korea and ASEAN have a lot of interest together as we will continue to deepen our partnership and expand our partnership. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General.